always got to have the lo-fi going on. Hello, and welcome to the first official Squid Cloud live stream. I've done a bit of streaming on Twitch before, but this is my first time doing it on LinkedIn Live and YouTube. And so we're going to try all that out and see how all these different pieces fit together. I am Jen Person, developer advocate at Squid Cloud, and I'm here today to build some features in an app using Squid to kind of show you what that process would look like. And, you know, if you are in the future watching this, because of course it's going to be recorded, so you can find it later on YouTube and LinkedIn and Twitch. You know, I want to know, do we have flying cars yet? What is the future like? Because that's what I think we all imagine. So welcome if you are in the future. You know, it is great to have you here. And this is my first time doing a live stream for Squid before, but you know what, let's just pop it on my head. Let's just have a conversation first, just a little bit. You know, this is my first time doing a live stream on all these different platforms for Squid before, but in the past, I've done live streams for other products, including TensorFlow.js. And actually, it was an interesting experience. Live streaming has a completely different feel from pre-recorded video, of course, and even from just giving talks. There's something just indescribably different about it. There's something about the fact that I'm ad-libbing and also it's going to be recorded so that you can revisit it later in the future. And so that's kind of the you know, the interesting part about it, in my opinion. But yeah, welcome. So excited for folks to check out some of the features of Squid. And, you know, what Squid is a super powerful backend as a service that allows you to build apps and incorporate AI much faster. And it is designed to be completely unopinionated, so you can incorporate the different databases and APIs and features that you want. And what I'm going to be going through right now is going to be an application where you can build in some features and you can follow along as well. It's within our onboarding flow. So let me share a link to our onboarding flow that you can find here. Woo! A little bit.ly link so you can check it out yourself if you want to follow along. And certainly, you know, if you are in the future and you have questions, you can join our Discord to talk to us. You can leave comments on whatever platform you're viewing this on, and I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. Let me just also grab a short link to our Discord server so that you can check that out as well. I'll drop that on the stream as well. Got ourselves a new. So yeah, that's our onboarding, and I'll put back on that in just a moment. But we've also got, this is a link to our Discord server, and I'd love to chat with you about the kind of stuff that you want to build and help you kick that off. And what's cool about this particular opportunity, it's between now and I believe August 22nd. We are holding a Build with Squid competition. So it's kind of like a hackathon, but it's a little more asynchronous, so you have time. You know, even if you're finding out about it a little later, still plenty of time to build something. Basically, build a super cool application with Squid, and you could win a Visa gift card. So a great opportunity to try it out, and you can get something from it. You know, we're giving some prizes for the top, most creative and interesting applications. So yeah, definitely check that out. If you join our Discord, we can talk about it. You can share your ideas, and we're there to help guide you through it. And so yeah, back to our onboarding flow. I've already gone through the initial steps of onboarding where you have to run a few different commands to spin up the application. So what I'd really like to do is just dive right into what the app looks like, talk about what the features are going to be, and then just go right into adding the code, talking about what the different code features are. Because I want to show you kind of how quickly this comes together. And I think the best way to understand Squid is to get hands-on with it. I feel like that with all sorts of technologies. Whenever I go to a landing page for some kind of technology, And it's just kind of a bunch of word salad. I'm like, just show me the doc, show me how to get started, show me the demo apps. I want to see it in action, and that helps me understand it. So I think hopefully this is really going to appeal to the people that sort of fit in that same space as well. So yeah, I'll probably flash back to that as well. Once we get going, and hopefully get some more folks joining. And how do we feel about the lo-fi music? It works for me. We might mix it. We got to mix it up at some point, because I'm becoming much too attached to it, I think. And it is a little redundant, but yeah, go back to our regularly scheduled banner maybe. Hide that guy for a while, and then it's just back to me, Jen Person, developer advocate. Still getting the hang of StreamYard. I made use of this the other day just as a practice run, and a little bit of tweaking involved, but I love it. I think it's pretty darn intuitive, and just getting my sea legs around it. But yeah, so let's talk about what we have here. Basically, if you go to that link and you start with Squid Cloud, and actually if it's your first time on Squid Cloud, you're going to end up there regardless. If you go to console.squid.cloud, it'll put you right into that flow to create an application if you choose to do so. I think it's the best way to get started and figure out how Squid works. After running a few commands in your terminal, this app that I am showing here is what's going to pop up. And it's sort of a fun style that my colleague came up with, where there's an application that you'll see here on the right side, and then on the left side are some instructions to follow to start building out features. Because right now, if we look at what the app does, we have this, and it says add to do, and you can add a title and a description, and so like a clean to dos and a create with AI button. And these don't really do anything just yet, because this is just the sort of plain structure of the app with nothing in it yet. So we're going to be adding those features to it, so that when you create an action item, a to-do, like you would have for your to-do list, it's going to be saved in a database, and you can check it off or delete it, etc. So we're going to start by adding those sort of standard CRUD features that help you really get to know a database. And what's really nice about this is once you understand how to do this with the Squid SDK, you can apply it to any database that you want to connect. So when you spin up a Squid application, it automatically includes a built-in database, so you can get started right away. It is a NoSQL database, but if for some reason your data is in any resource, that's not a problem. You can connect it to Squid, and it'll be the same SDK, so it works just the same way, making it easier to switch data sources as well, if need be. So Squid, for this particular application that you're looking at here, this is a React front end with a Squid backend. So Squid handles all the stuff on the backend, so you don't have to worry about scaling and containerizing and all that stuff. It's serverless, and you just I'm running this application locally right now, both the front end and the back end. And so some of the code changes we're going to be making are on the front end, and then some are the back end. And we'll see as we're going along where that code goes and what makes sense, depending on where that code is. So let's just jump right into this second step here, because Squid uses React hooks if you're using the React SDK, so that your data very easily stays up to date. It will just automatically subscribe to changes, and if you put something in the view, it'll update the view. So in order to do that, we've got to add this code to our application. So we've got these couple of imports, and I need to put them in app.tsx. And I believe in terms of the front end, this is where all of our code is going to be. We're not going to have to touch any of these components. So I'll add my import there. So we have two imports, use collection and use query. And what use collection allows you to do is hook into a collection of a database. And depending on what style database you have, if it's a NoSQL database, use collection is then going to point to a specific collection of data. And if you have a SQL database, then use collection is going to point to a specific table of data that you are going to specify. And then use query just says, like, use this particular query of this collection that I'm going to provide, so you can customize and filter the data that you want to receive as much as necessary. And then coming back over here, I have the use collection function, and I'm going to be querying this collection in my database that's called to-dos. And then I call use query to get specific data from that collection. In this case, I'm just getting all of the data from it. But if for some reason I wanted to filter it, Squid has fully customizable filters. But just to get started, we just want to read what we have. And dereference says, like, I don't need a reference. I don't need a pointer to the particular document. I just want the information in it. And so that I can use that in the view. So if I pull these two features, and I'm going to replace this data with use query. So when I have data, it will appear in there. And you'll see down here, it's going to appear in my list of to-dos. In fact, because I've built this application before, chances are when I click save on here, new to-dos might even show up in the view right now. And they do. And that will not happen on your end when you're first building your app, because you haven't added any yet. But because I've gone through this before with this particular Squid app, I have some data stored. So what you see here is data that has been stored in the built-in Squid database. And so it has a couple of to-dos for me that don't make a lot of sense as they are written, but as we go along, you'll start to understand why they why they say the things that they say. This has to do with our AI features. So stay tuned for some fun stuff having to do with AI. And bear with me while I drink my caffeinated sparkling water. It was a mistake to ever start drinking it because it's delicious and it's caffeinated, and it goes, it's as easy to drink as a LaCroix, but has caffeine in it, which is quite the combination. But yeah, so we've added something just to read the data. So that's the first step that we've done. And of course, something has appeared here because I already put some data in here, which I understand is a bit of cheating. But we also want to be able to add new to-dos, right? So in order to add new data to your database, you're going to use Squid's insert method. And so you say on what collection you want to insert. In this case, it's the to-do collection. So that particular collection of documents that is labeled as to-do, I want to insert a new to-do. And the information that it has, of course, is a title, which you can see here in the view. It has content, it has a created at and an updated at, and indicating whether or not it's done, which is what this check mark does. Well, it doesn't do it yet. We've got to add the code that does that. But yeah, so we're going to add that handle create function. So if we go in here and we see this existing handle create function, all it does is log something. It doesn't have any functionality in it yet. So if I replace that, I see. I think I have too strong of a filter on here. Interesting. Title or content. Huh. That's a new bug that we're getting there. I have not seen that error before. All right. right, let's go over to the to-do type. I might end up. It wasn't my intention to troubleshoot this right now, so we might end up going and looking at another demo instead if this is not working. But it's interesting because I know someone walked through it just this morning and it was working. So I feel like there's something wrong with the linter that I have on here. We're just going to cheat thusly to fix it. But yeah, let's hope that resolves it. But if it doesn't, we might end up going to look at another example. We have plenty of other tutorials, but I'm intrigued as to what's going on there. But like I said, I think that I've got some kind of linter that I'm using that's a little too pushy. So if I say fix, maybe my next thing is troubleshoot. So there we go. We added it, but we'll see if that ends up causing issues later as we go along here. So I made it optional. The underscore ID is something that is actually provided by Squid. It's not something that I have to allocate, which is why it's getting confused and why I haven't supplied it. But yeah, I'll take a look at that. But so I was able to add a to-do, but right now I'm not able to update it. Clicking this doesn't actually click it off and say that I've done the task. So the next thing we're going to want to do is look at how we update data in Squid. So the insert method is just for when you are first inserting a new document. And it's formatted as such because every database works a little bit differently. So you can't necessarily have a single method that works for both inserting and updating because it really depends on your data source. To make it as unopinionated as possible and work for whatever database that you connect, it's kind of kept with something that works for all of them. So we have this handle toggle function. So let's go pop it in and then look at what the code of it says. So what handle toggle does is it calls the update method and it changes done to be whatever value you've just done, either checked off or unchecked off. And then it updates the updated at date. So it'll tell you the last time that you made a change to it. So now I can check something off and it says that I've completed it and it tells me at what time I updated it and I can uncheck it. So that's updating the data in the database. And so, it's kind of nice actually to just go ahead and look at the data itself. So in the Squid Cloud console, you can actually view your data, which is nice. So no matter what database, no matter what data you've connected, your database data will appear here. So you can get a bit of a preview. You can even filter it, and you can ask questions about it. But we'll get into that in just a little bit. But yeah, going back through here, the handle toggle uses the update functionality from Squid to manage those updates. And then we also have a handle delete function because you probably want to get rid of something once you've completed it. And thus, took out the wrong function because I'm not looking. There we go. Beautiful. In order to delete a document, so that would be a row in a table or a document in a NoSQL database, we call a delete method, and you provide the information about the document that you're looking to delete. Generally, it would be the ID of the document, which is something that you can either randomly generate or you can provide it yourself. So in this case, it identifies the document and then it deletes it. So since I've fixed the app, I can check that off. Go me. All right. Yeah, so that's your basic CRUD functionality. If you create something, you use the insert method. If you want to, read something, you saw we used that use query method from React. But if you're not using React, you would just have another query and you can subscribe to changes to it if you want to. You can update using update, and then you can delete using the delete method. And those are kind of just like the basic fundamental building blocks of how you interface with different Squid data, wherever your data source is. If you understand that CRUD functionality, you can build off of a lot of it. And in our documentation, we have plenty of information about creating queries. So that would be under docs.squid.cloud. Head over there, and we've got some documentation on that. And of course, if you join our Discord, I'm happy to talk to you about it as well. So, definitely join our Discord channel, and I'll talk to you about all of our CRUD features and how you can create the specific queries you want. You can even query across different data sources. So you can combine data from 2 different data sources in a single query. So with our basic CRUD functionality in place, we're going to talk about some different features that you can add, some on the front end and a lot more on the back end, a lot of interactivity that you can add on the back end. So we're going to create an executable. And whenever you have some kind of functionality that you need to be able to access on the client, but you want to secure it and you can't run it on the client for whatever reason, it could be because it's very resource intensive. It could be because it has secure private information in it that you wouldn't want the user to be able to access, something like some kind of API key or something like that. When you have those kind of things, you can run them in the Squid backend by just labeling the function as an executable using this executable decorator. And so let's take a look at what that looks like. So in the Squid backend, I have some updated imports here. So let's go look at this. So right now, this that we're looking at here is in the front end. And then we have common, and then this is the Squid backend that I'm showing here that I'm sort of scrolling over. I'm going to open example service because in the Squid backend, this is the only place that you have to hang out. Everything else is just some boilerplate to get the app running properly. This is the only place where you're going to want to make changes. And in this, in these service files, it doesn't have to be example service. You could add your own services. You're going to write your security functions. So how you want people to be able to access your data and APIs and resources, or how they can't access them. And also this functionality like executables. So running some backend code, but being able to access it from the front end. So here I have my imports as they are. We have secure database and Squid service. You'll see that Squid service is the class that you're going to write all of your functionality in. And then secure database is this decorator that you see here. And this function that you see here is provided by default with your Squid backend. So to start with, it says that read and write and update access is available to the entire built-in database. And this is fine for when you're running your application locally, but certainly once you're deploying your application, you're going to want to add some security rules to that. For instance, you could check if the user is authenticated. You could check if they have some kind of admin token associated with them. You can check the database for a specific attribute and see if they're on a list. There's all sorts of things that you might want to check first before you allow them access. And you can also limit what information they can add or change or read, fully customizable. And if you can write JavaScript, then you can write the functionality that goes in here. So going back in here, gonna paste my updated thing, and that's the executable decorator that we are going to incorporate. And this is the code of the executable. And I'm just going to paste it in here, and then I'm going to look at it. I find it easier to look at here. Whenever I'm adding these functions, I just add them. I'm just adding them at the end of the class, as you see here. And there we go. So what we've done here is we have I copied a little too much. So this function, I have marked it as an executable, and it is called clean to-dos, and it just runs this clean to-dos internal function. And we've abstracted this function because it's something that will run for more than one function on the back end, as you'll see. So what this does is it goes through the to-dos collection. It queries all of the to-dos where done is equal to true. So if I check something else on the front end, then that's going to be returned from this. This says all of these all of these document references for anything that I've completed. And then it runs in a transaction because it's better to batch this and just do all of these things at once. It batch deletes all the ones that are checked off. So if I just want to automatically remove any ones that are checked off, this is the function that I would run. And this runs in this executable, so that means it will trigger this function if I execute it from the front end. So going back to my code, to call it from the client, I've got to update my imports to include the use squid hook. And then this handle clean to-dos. And then I'm going to add, got to add the use squid at the top. Doesn't matter if it's before use collection or whatnot. It can be anywhere in there. Boop. And then, yes, that's the noise it makes. Boop. It just does. And then we'll go to handle clean to-dos. And we'll upgrade. So it calls squid execute function, and then the name of the function that I want to be able to run. So this will run this function. And again, if this is, I could say like, if they're not authenticated, return or something, so you can check like right in that functionality, you can build in like how you want people to be able to access something or not. There's no authentication in this demo, but it's easy to incorporate that as well. I'm going to make my banner go away for a little bit. I might even bring back this. I should just be double checking to make sure I'm not covering up anything important. Doesn't look like it. But yeah, I just want to bring back the underscore board for anyone that wants to try to build along. So let's test it out, shall we? Because we tested out deleting something, and we tested out checking off something, and these to-dos just seem odd because we haven't gotten to the part related to them yet. So I'm going to check them off, which means if I click clean to-dos, it's going to eliminate them. And there you go. Now, compared to writing to this front end, depending on your internet speed there, you might notice a delay between clicking clean to-dos and the action, because this is code that's running on the back end. So that's just something to keep in mind for what kind of actions you would want to have there. It really depends on what what you want that experience to be like. If it's Squid does optimistic updates. So when you update something from within the front end, the result of that will be displayed automatically. And if the result comes back that for some reason that action didn't go through, it will roll back. But it just makes for a much smoother, cleaner, faster appearance on the front end. But that's not going to be the same case for running something in an executable. So it really depends on your use case. So yeah, we're going to add a couple more to-dos now. It looks like I might have to fix title box. It's too narrow. And that just might be some weird setting that I've put on my side. And another to-do is stop caffeine habit. Yeah, so just throwing on a couple more to-dos there, just because as we're going through and testing things out, we'll want to try this out. And so that's an executable. Run some backend code from the front end by calling execute function. So let's look at a trigger. Triggers run automatically in response to a specific change in the database. So anytime you want to take some particular action as a result of the change in the database, trigger is the way to go in that case. So I think it helps. This is another one that just really works best when you see it in action. So we're going to go back to our handle toggle function here, and we're just we removed the updated at. So that was something that we initially managed on the client. But for something like that, you might want to manage it on the back end so that the client doesn't have the opportunity to fudge that value, for example. So I removed that, updating the date from the client. And we're going to move that functionality to the back end. So in example service again, which is the only place we need to hang out in the back end, we're going to update our imports. And we've imported a bunch of new things here. This one can go. That's not there yet. I just need to pull the latest update of this demo to show that. But yeah, so we have trigger and trigger request, which is some context about what trigger was triggered. So taking a look at our code here, going to add it over here at the very end. So we have this decorator called trigger, and that says the function underneath this is going to run anytime this trigger condition is met. It's on the to-dos collection, and it's whenever there's an update in the to-dos collection. So you can be specific about what kind of mutation types you want it to make that change on. And so then on update to do, we have the context of the trigger request. So just some information about what data was changed and what was there before. So if the data before for the field value done is the same as the data for the field after done, there's no work to be done. If some other change was made to the data besides checking it off, then we don't need to run anything else. And so we just return out of it. Otherwise, we update that particular to-do to say that the updated at date is the new date. So if they checked it off, if that's changed, on the back end, we update what that date is. So triggers are great for whenever you need to say, make some kind of aggregate change. Maybe a single user liked a post and then you need to increment the number of likes, or maybe in this case, you don't want the client to be updating the field that is the updated at date. You want that to be something that is abstracted so they don't have the ability to change it. And so that would be done on the back end. And why not do it automatically whenever you change? So whenever you check it off, that would run. So going back to my code, I've saved it. Yeah, everyone's saved. Beautiful. Going to, so this says updated at 3:32. Now it's updated at 3:36:32. So as you can see, that data point updates automatically, and there's just a function that runs every time I make a change to my data, and then if that change was with this done, then it runs this trigger. So another feature of the backend that's very useful is whenever you need to run some kind of functionality periodically, cron jobs, if you will. So in Squid, we call them schedulers because that's just kind of a more, I guess, general term. And we're going to add a scheduler that every 10 seconds checks the list of to-dos, and if they are checked off, it just automatically deletes them. So I won't necessarily need to use this clean to-dos button anymore because the cleaning is going to be done for me. So we'll mark stop caffeine habit as checked off. Actually, we'll leave it for now so that we can make sure that we see what happens. So this code is going on the back end. Schedulers run in the Squid back end. So going back up here, I gotta add my triggers back in. Apologies. There we go. Right, and then cron expression that'll come up in just a moment. And then we're gonna add our scheduler. And just like all of the other backend functionality we add, it's just TypeScript, and then you're saying what you want it to do based on the decorator you provide for it. So in this case, going back to the end of my file. Sorry, you're getting weird, Jen, today. Blame it on the caffeinated sparkling water. What can I say? It's raining out, kind of unusual for this time of year. It's just a weird day. We're gonna enjoy it together. And I love that. Yes, so I added my function, which is now going to run every 10 seconds. And so I can say, like, cron expression, and this just like gives me access to a whole bunch of different intervals, but there is already this like cron expression formatting that you can just look up that you can use for this. This isn't unique to Squid. Cron expression language of like the intervals you want to do things in them, because sometimes you need like very specific intervals, of course. There is that functionality, and you can just look that up and find out what that looks like. For example, do you see this one here? It says every 10 seconds, and that's what every 10 seconds looks like. And yeah, so you could just write it this way as well if you wanted to. You don't need to use the every 10 seconds. That was I made a short story very long. Let's just check off stop caffeine habit and pretend that that's what I've achieved here. And then within 10 seconds, my function will run, and boom, as you can see, magic. It has automatically deleted that to do, checked it off. So next, we're gonna look at a little concept called webhooks. And a lot of different services that you're going to connect to are going to want to give you asynchronous information. And one of the ways that they do that is through webhooks. They basically say, hey, we will ping the endpoint of your choice when this particular action happens. And so you provide them the endpoint to ping, and then they'll send you kind of some information about what happened. Say an invoice was generated, or the amount of stock of a particular item changed. There's so many reasons why webhooks exist in every single industry. And then you can take actions based on that information. So if a user, say, like changes something about their profile in a particular service, you want to get that information and say update their profile in a database, for example. So it helps these different features communicate to each other in the asynchronous way that serverless functionality should go. So let's create a webhook. Let's do my imports, update those. The list is getting pretty long, adding a ton of features. Added my ellipses. I added my ellipses as well. It's just supposed to mean like there's some code there that I should expect to remember that is there. And so I've added the webhook decorator, webhook request, and webhook response. And these are, again, just like context formatters because we're dealing with TypeScript. And I was going to say I won't tolerate any TypeScript hate here, but go for it. Absolutely. I love TypeScript. So it's like everything that's great about JavaScript, but also it's so much easier to read, I would argue. Okay. We'll just do some cheating there because I made that change. It's me. I made a change to the types. And so I'll have to go in and figure that out. Okay, so when I do this, as you can see, when I label something with the webhook decorator, which is this function here, Squid creates a URL for me that's that endpoint. In this case, I'm just running things locally, so this is just something that runs in the developer environment, and as soon as I shut this down, that endpoint is no longer running. So I get the query parameters that are supposed to be required from this request, and we'll show what that looks like in a minute. And then from there, I'm going to call that create to do internal function, which is going to create a new to do for me on the back end. And then it returns a response of the to do that it created. So taking a look at here, it shows you, this is what you end up getting is this URL. And so you want to we're going to copy that URL and we're going to add these query parameters here. So copy. Now, if I just paste it, because I'll do that, like why not? It's going to be an invalid request because this request requires these two query parameters. It needs a title of the new to-do you're adding and the content of the new to-do you're adding. That's what it's going to expect. As we can see from here, it expects these two query parameters, so we need to provide them. So at the end here, we will add them. So again, it's just going to be test and test. And we get that this to-do is created with the ID of the to-do. And then here it is, test to-do. And it created that test content. And so you could change this to be caffeine. Sorry, I just really don't feel like dealing with escaping parameters right now. I was thinking about all this space escaping that I was going to have to do. And I'm like, you know what? We're just going to make it stop. So yeah, it's created that. Created that for us. But of course, yeah, and there it is. So that's webhooks. And again, that's going to be really useful in working with any of the different services that you need to connect. We have an example that uses Stripe webhooks. So if you go to docs.squid.cloud and go to our tutorials section, you can check out the one that uses Stripe webhooks. And honestly, the hardest part about that was figuring out how to use Stripe CLI. So let's add AI. I think that for a lot of folks, that could be one of the most fun parts. And, time permitting, we could look into some different examples that I have that use it as well. But what we're going to do here is automatically create some to-dos for us. We're going to have the AI do that for us. So let's, the routine, going into our backend. Zoop. So this particular action, there is a way to do this straight from the front end as well, but we're going to be incorporating this into the back end for this particular example. But of course, if you have questions about doing that, go over into my banners ever so smoothly. This is an incredible segue, beautiful transition. Join our Discord, and I'll show you all of my examples, really actually useful, but a little bit zany examples that I've come up with to show using Squid AI, and it includes functionality that runs directly from the front end as well. So Squid-Discord, join us, will you? Okay, back into my code. I know I just copied it, but I forgot if I pasted it. Going back into my example service. I should really mix up the music. We'll do it after. Yes, so you'll notice that this also runs in an executable. So again, this is going to be backend code that we want to trigger from the front end. So if I call execute function with create to-dos with AI, it'll run this function for me as long as I pass the specific task that I want it to do. So this uses Squid AI Assistant, which is just one of the ways that you can incorporate AI into your application using Squid. And so this one says you are designed to create to-do list items based on a specific task. You should create anywhere between 3 to 5 to-dos. And so it also passes this that we see here that's create to-do from assistant. And what this is an array of functions that the AI has access to. So you can provide it any functions you choose, and you tell it under what circumstances we should run it. So let's go look at create to-do from assistant for just a moment. That's what we have here. So we'll add it at the end. So this is AI function decorated, which again, you basically just write TypeScript and you put these little decorators on them and say that this function has a different purpose. And so this function says you can give this to an AI chatbot or assistant, and the assistant will decide when it should run that function. So I tell it some information. This function creates a new item in a to-do list. So that's going to be a clue to the AI to know when it should run that function versus when it should take some kind of other action, because you can have it make decisions based on the context. And then it should expect to build something with these two parameters, and then create to do from assistant is going to call that create to do internal that we just used on the executable. So it's reusing that same function to create a to do. So it's going to call that function whenever it thinks it needs to. So to create that list of to do items, it'll be calling that function. So that's where we left off here. Again, you can provide it with multiple functions that do different things, and it can decide what you should, which one it should run based on the individual request. And I have some fun examples that use that. Yeah, so going back to it, we're going to query the assistant, say, create some to-dos for the task. And this is what's coming from the client. It's the request that I'm making. And then it's just deleting it. With the AI assistant, you have these long-running threads. So you could have individual conversations. Say you have a situation where each customer needs to have their own individual assistant that might have some context from the previous conversation. That's where these can be very useful, because you can have a unique thread for every single client that you have, so that you have the correct experience and it's bespoke, and the AI can call upon that history to make decisions about what to do next. Don't need it in this case, so we just end up deleting that long running thread. And then on the front end, I'm gonna connect my executable. Again, here, it just logs. And then we're gonna change it to create to-dos with AI, passing the task, which is what we're gonna prompt it with, which you'll see in a moment. So going over here, if I click create with AI, this is where my I need to pick up groceries. This is the prompt that I gave it before that had sort of those weird to-dos that were still left over. So I'm going to click add, and then behind the scenes, what the AI is going to be doing is generating a list of to-do tasks, and then writing them to the database. So it can write things on your behalf because it's calling a function that writes to the database. So in this case, it's just telling me the different things that I need to buy from there. So you could have it automatically, especially if you have difficulty getting started with a task, because it's hard to sort of break it down into its individual pieces. That's what this does very well. And this is just one use case. There are plenty of other things that the AI does very well. Let's just check a couple of them off just to make sure that our cron job is still running every 10 seconds. Yeah, so we just incorporated AI as well. And as you can see, it's only a few lines of code, and you really don't have to be an AI expert to know what to do in those cases. And that's something that I find very exciting about this. This is applicable to all developers. And just starting from this particular example, which you can get in our onboarding, if you choose the full stack application, what you can get from that is you can really use as a framework to come up with other use cases and other ideas. And actually, that's kind of what I've ended up doing with mine as well. We can close this other window with that. But yeah, let me put this here for just a moment and pull up another example, because what we've done actually is completed the final step of our tutorial. We've added a whole bunch of different features in a short period of time, especially considering, doing a little bit of casual rambling, as I do. Blame it on the caffeinated sparkling water. But yeah, I would love to just like pull up another example that I have that I'm pretty proud of. And then we'll call it. And then, I'd love to hear from folks that get a chance to look at this, about your experience and what questions you have about using Squid. There we go. There's my friend. Visit this website. Beautiful. And then love it. Let's bring it back, shall we? No, not yet. Now. Awesome. Okay, so what we have here is something that I was actually working on stream pretty recently, and I added a whole bunch to it off stream, which I know is a little bit of, I wanted to do it on stream, but I was kind of under a deadline at that point. So I would still like to add more features to it, on stream as well. So we'll see about that. But this is kind of what we have going on here. This is for household maintenance. So the idea is for every single appliance and feature of your home, there's like a different manual to tell you what you should be doing to it and how to fix things as they go wrong and how to troubleshoot it. And it's really hard to keep track of all of that. And so the idea is that the AI will do it for me. I've provided it with some contexts to start with. So here are some links to the different manuals that I've added, but I could also do this in the moment. I could upload or provide links in the moment that the AI could use, but I just happen to be providing these in advance. So I can ask questions about it. So how do I clean my cooktop? And then the AI is going to generate a response specifically based off of the context I provided. So it can go through those contexts, and you might have, like in this case, I have 4, but depending on the complexity of your use case, you could have dozens, you could have more. So it determines what information is relevant, and then it generates a response in that case. So it tells me how I can clean it based on the information that's provided in the context. And it even has a little visual aid, which I love in this particular example. And then something else that I can do is tell it to create a list of maintenance tasks. And when I do this, what it's actually doing is calling one of those AI functions. So rather than just responding to me based on the context like it did the first time, it knows based on the context based on what I've requested that it needs to run this function. And so it reads through the different manuals. It generates a list of regular things that you need to be doing to maintain those items. And then it writes those to your built-in database. So it can take actions on your behalf. It's writing to the database just for me. So I'm supposed to be applying cooktop cleaning cream to my cooktop daily, and we're going to pretend that I did. We're just going to pretend that I did. And like I literally don't know the last time I cleaned the spray arms on my dishwasher. Does this mean I'm gross? Am I confessing that? Is everyone else cleaning the spray arms of their dishwasher? If you're lucky. I mean, I understand not everyone has a dishwasher either. I am very fortunate, but it's just sort of interesting. So just did it for a few different items here, but you can request specific things that you wanted to make maintenance tasks for. So now that writes to the database. But what about reading to the database? Reading from the database, and this is an interesting challenge, if you will, because using just AI functions, because as I said, those call TypeScript functions, you would need to write the query that you wanted. Like you can do that, and then the AI can provide that information to you. But what if that query is constantly changing? What if that query is different depending on what the client is asking? Squid has a feature called Query with AI that can query data in whatever database you have connected, whether again it's NoSQL or SQL. It knows what queries need to be taken, and it can do that on your behalf, get you the information you want, and also let you know what query it made so that you can make sure that the information is accurate. So in this case, I want to know what maintenance tasks I have completed, which are these things here. And if I ask that, again, it's looking at the functionalities, the decisions that it can make. It's going to decide to run a function that's going to run query with AI. So query with AI is a different AI that is deciding what function needs to be run and then taking that action. And that information is eventually going to get passed to my original AI chatbot. And so we can see here, clean door gasket, clean spray arms, and apply cooktop cleaning cream. And I can like be much more specific about what I want. I like this question. So I want the AI to look up in the manual to determine how often I should clean the lint filter for my washer and dryer. And based on that interval that it finds, if I'm running 2 loads of laundry a day, how often should I clean the filter? So it's not just getting the context, it's also doing something with that information. And so you can just, I love that it can be fully interactive. So this is something that has both structured and unstructured data on it, and it's able to sort of put those concepts together using Squid's different features. And it even told me how it calculated that, which is really funny. So yeah, this is just a demo that I recently made that I'm pretty proud of, and kind of the long and short of some of the things that Squid can do. So what I'd like to do is just kind of be coming in here and regularly showing some things that Squid can do. I know things are pretty quiet here today, but this is live stream is going to be recorded, so definitely feel free to leave some comments, ask your questions, and I would love to connect with you and see how Squid can help you build something incredible. Thanks so much for stopping by today, and I will see you next time.